Hi, welcome to 6-in-1 Movement Breaks. We're going to do a move or a series of moves now that work on weight shifting and balance. So we're going to use those 7-foot positions in order to kind of create this motion. And I want you to listen to your body as we move through. We're going to start with that front to back motion, and we're going to step 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. Just take a small step, and you're going to shift your weight till you get about 95% onto the front foot. And then you're going to shift back and do the same thing where you get almost all your weight loaded into that back foot. I then want you to take a little bit bigger step. You're going to shift forward so your weight is onto that front foot, and then shift back onto the back foot. If that felt good, you want to stay there, or we can stretch it a little bit more and just take a little bit bigger step. Last time, we're just going to shift the weight forward onto that front leg, and stepping back and shifting the weight back into the back leg. At any point in time, you want to pick what distance is best for you, whether you start out with a small stance or work yourself into a little bit bigger. Let's try that on the other side now. We'll step the other foot forward just a little bit, get a little shift forward, and then a little shift back. Shift the weight forward, shift the weight back. Try and extend your stance a little bit, so take a little bit bigger step, shift, and shift. Great. We're now going to look at the frontal plane. So we're going to start with our feet close together, and you'll feel this is kind of awkward to be able to shift your weight into 1 foot, and then we'll shift the weight all the way into the other foot, shift, and shift. Now we want to try and make it wider, so we'll go a little bit further than hip width apart now. Shift the weight onto one side, and then shift the weight to the other. And we're going to try it again, trying to go just a little bit further apart. So we're kind of tweaking it out along that frontal plane, or like that side-to-side plane. So we'll go over to one side, and then shift your weight over to the other side. Again. Now into our transverse plane, or the rotation plane. This is where we're going to use our toes out or our toes in. So find a comfortable position and just kind of turn your toes out just a little bit and shift your weight into one side, and then shift into the other side. There should be no pressure on the knees, nothing should hurt, everything should feel good. We're just kind of getting that weight shift, our core is being engaged. Now with the transverse plane, that rotational plane, we can either try and turn our feet out a little bit more, or maybe we take a little step back and we open up that motion so it's more as if I'm making a turn in my daily life. So I'm going to have you step back so we're turned out a little bit more. Shift your weight to 1 foot. Shift to the other. If you're feeling uncomfortable or if it's too big for you to control, just shorten up the stride a little bit. You want to feel it so it's comfortable for you. Now we'll try the other side. Shifting the weight onto the front foot. Shift the weight onto the back foot. You can open it up a little bit more or make it a little smaller, whatever feels comfortable. And our last one is we're going to do a little bit of a toe in. Sometimes this can aggravate the knees a little bit, so make sure you pay attention. You don't have to turn your toes all the way in. If the front is parallel, we can just take them in just a tiny little bit. And what that's going to do is give us a little bit more into our glutes, giving a nice stretch down around here. And you can work on shifting your weight to one side and then shifting the weight to the other. So now that we feel comfortable with shifting our weight and knowing that we can make our steps bigger or smaller depending on what feels good for us, we're going to add a little bit more to this. So we're going to go back to that very beginning step with 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. And you're going to find that comfortable range. From what we did before, you should kind of know what length of stride you should have. We're going to shift the weight forward, and you're just going to kind of hang out there. You should feel your weight completely over that leg. Your knee is soft. Your abdominals should naturally draw in because you're standing nice and tall. And we're going to try and take this leg and just lift it up behind us. If at any time this is difficult, you can always go stand by a counter or a sturdy chair that you can have for balance. But we're just going to lift that leg up and down in the back. And that little tap helps you to resettle. So if you're feeling wobbly and you have to catch yourself, that's great. That's your body kind of learning that balance. And then we're going to shift our weight back into that back foot. We'll do the same thing where we just kind of lift the foot up and down. Now we'll switch to the other leg. So we'll bring the other foot forward and back. We're going to shift forward, make sure that weight's completely over, abdominals tall, body's high, and just lift that leg behind us. We're getting a nice stretch through that hip flexor. We're getting a lot of work done on this standing leg to help keep us balanced. And we're doing between 6 and 12 lifts. You go at your rate. Don't worry about keeping pace with me. Shifting the weight back into the back leg. Now we're sitting into that glute a little bit, getting nice strength, and we're going to lift the leg up. There's no magic in the number of having to do 1 to 10 reps. Find what works for you, and you're able to do it successfully, and the motion is correct, and that you're not having to wobble or it's not hurting any place. Now let's take us into that side-to-side motion. We'll start a little wider because this is the easier one to start with. Shift your weight into one foot. Make sure you're loaded up. If you were to look down, your hip, your knee, and your foot should all be in a nice straight line, so you're stacked over your hip, and then we'll lift that leg up to the side. And then we're going to shift our weight to the other side. Same thing, making sure we're all stacked up on top of each other, not allowing our knee to drop in, so we're not putting pressure there. And lifting the leg up. Again, it doesn't have to be super high. You want to go where it's comfortable for you and you have success. Very nice. Now I want you to try and bring your feet really close together. This actually makes the exercise a little bit more difficult because you have a smaller base of support. And if I shift my weight onto one foot, again, I'm looking to be stacked up. I want to be able to lift that leg up and bring it back down. Should feel good. That standing leg is the one that's getting the work. It's nice that this leg's moving, but the standing leg is really the one that's getting the work as we lift the other side. Very nice. Now we're going to go into that transverse plane, that rotational thing. We're going to go where we go a little wide, and we're going to turn the toes out a bit. So in this position, I'm going to shift my weight forward with that hip turned out, and I'm going to lift that leg up. Just like everything else, I brought all of my weight over that leg to make sure my hip, my ankle, and my knee are all stacked on top of each other, and I don't have any pain. Then I'll shift back and lift. I've opened up my hips more now, so it's similar to the first one, but now I'm getting more work. My core is having to engage a little bit more. My inner and outer thighs are having to work a little bit more. Very good. Then we want to try that little bit of a toed in. So I'm going to toe in slightly, shift my weight to one side, and then lift the leg out to the side. This one's a little bit more difficult to hold your balance. You might feel you're wobbling a little bit more. Again, you can hold on to something, maybe have a wall nearby, or think about standing taller. A lot of times we start looking down to see what's going on with our foot, and that'll throw our balance off. But if we lift the chest, all of a sudden it creates that length and helps us to engage into that core a little bit more. Shifting the weight to the other side. Make sure you're nice and tall and lift. Excellent. That worked the lower body real well. We worked a lot of stability and balance going on there. We got those 6 motions going through the hips and the ankles, working on our core. To bring it up a notch, we can start adding a little hands into it. So if I were to go back into that very first position I had, shifting my weight forward, getting all of my balance onto the leg, maybe using my back leg as a little bit of a kickstand, I can bring my hands in that front to back motion. And then I can bring them side to side, and I'm doing about 3 of each before I switch. And then rotate. Again, there's no magic in the numbers. You do what feels good for you. We'll shift the weight back on the foot, balance, and rock. Front to back, side to side, and that rotation. We'll switch the feet up Shift the weight forward, remembering the stance distance is up to you, what feels comfortable. Side to side. And rotation. Into that side to side, we'll start with our feet a little further than hip width apart. Shift the weight over to the side. That toe is off to the side. I'm stacked on top of that leg, nice and tall. Reach the fingertips up, front and back. And as you can see, it's not just my arms moving, my hips and my thoracic, everything is moving together. Make sure you're feeling no pain. You should feel your foot planted into the floor and rotate. Shift the weight to the other side. Get yourself stacked, front to back, side to side, and rotate. Bringing together our base of support, so we've got that really narrow base of support, makes it a little more challenging on our balance. We're going to shift the weight and get that foot off the floor, just that toe touch, and front to back, side to side, and rotate. The rotation, you see that the hips are coming along with it. It's not all through the low back. Front to back, side to side, the hips come along for the ride, and rotation, the hips come along. Now we'll go into that rotational plane. We'll go with our wide, toed out slightly, shift the weight forward, feeling the hips front and back. Again, you may feel more stretch deep into the hip flexor now and into that adductor, side to side. Find the range that is comfortable for you and rotate. And if you wobble and almost fall, it's fine. Shift your weight back, front to back. Can you feel the difference of when you bring your weight to the front leg and to the back leg where your kickstand is? It really feels different. I want you to kind of be aware of that feeling and see where you have the most success and where you struggle just a little bit. We'll go to the toes turned in slightly, so we'll be right here, and we'll go front to back. If this is too much turning on the toes, all you do is just make it a little bit less. And rotate. And because in real life we forget things sometimes, we have to go back and do the other side with the rotation. You're going to step the foot back, shift the weight forward, and front to back. And step back. Now you're going to come forward, go side to side. So I'm switching up the order just a little bit, but there's no perfection in having to do all of them together. So I just wanted to kind of show you how, you know what, by changing the sequence of what you're doing, it changes the motion just a little bit. So instead of doing all three together, I just rotated front to back and did the front to back, and then I did the side to side, and now I'm finishing up with the rotation to rotation. By doing these motions, we're working on balance and weight shift. By stacking them together, you're able to create different motions and listen to your body. You can even take it into what we're going to do for our final motion, is where you really put them both together. We're going to do two of each, where we're going to move the arms and the hands in the same direction. So we'll step with that front foot forward, hands are up. You're going to lift the back leg up as the hands go back, and then we're going to shift, and we're going to lift as the hands go back. Switch the feet, shift forward, lift, shift back, lift. Now we'll go into our wide stance, and we're going to lift and bring the arms over, and lift and bring. Bring the feet together, lift, lift. Wide rotation, toes out slightly, and you're going to turn and turn. Change the feet. Lift and lift, lift and lift. Last one with the toes in, knees soft. Then you catch up with me if I went a little fast for you. Right here, as you rotate and lift, just bring the hands, bring the hands. There's no right or wrong. You can mix up the planes. If you had the arms going in the wrong direction, your foot wasn't going where it was supposed to necessarily, that's fine. That's one of the benefits of having this beautiful sphere around us. By doing these motions, we're building total strength from the ground up. From our feet to our fingertips, we're getting stronger and better balanced. Have a great day.